All right, last night we saw UConn take down San Diego State in the Sweet 16, heading to the Elite Eight to play Illinois. So I figured I'd bring a guy on. I know everyone really enjoyed hearing from him last year. It's Coach Josh Pastner. So, Coach, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, and maybe I'm a good luck charm for the
Yeah.
UConn Nation over there, considering the fact that I was on last year, it led to the national championship, and we'll see what happens again this year. But you got a tough Elite Eight game.
Yeah.
Now, actually picked Iowa State UConn in the Elite Eight, and I picked Iowa State beating UConn. So I want to be on the front end of that and to tell everyone that I did pick Iowa State to beat UConn in the Elite Eight. I love UConn. I've seen them a bunch. I've said it that in the last decade, for a team that's won a national championship the year before, they have the best opportunity and team and chance to repeat as champions. And they have a real shot of doing it. However, I did love Iowa State. Big fan of them. I thought they'd play them in the Elite Eight, and Iowa State would end up beating them. So I do got to make sure I know that on the front end of that. But they do have a tough one tomorrow versus Illinois,
Yeah.
versus the Fighting Illini.
It's funny, and I know it's kind of a moot point at this point, but when I was watching that Iowa State Illinois game last night and thinking about who I'd rather play from a UConn perspective, I leaned towards Iowa State, thinking I'd rather deal with the team that plays tough defense but might struggle to score a little bit, which we saw at times during that game yesterday. Whereas the Illinois, you're going up against the number one offense in the country there. They might not be as good defensively, but it's kind of a pick your poison. From a coaching standpoint, when you're kind of assessing those matchups, which would you have preferred to go up against in that case?
Well, here's what I would tell you. I would tell you in this point of the year, I don't know, does it really matter when you get
Yeah,
to the Elite Eight because
yeah,
everybody's good and you've
yeah.
got to play really well. What I would tell you is what's been most impressive about UConn is the dominating performances that they've had dating back to last year.
Yeah.
And it's been absolutely dominating. And Coach Hurley actually mentioned this in his press conference post game of the San Diego State game. He says, we're just not real good in close games. That's why we've got to blow everybody out. But what I would tell you, that would be the one thing if I was a UConn fan, if we get in a close game in this tournament, whether it's the Elite Eight, Final Four, National Championship, how do we handle that? Because we have not been in a close game. We haven't been where it's been a one possession, two possession games with under, 2 minutes, 1 minute to go. And how do we handle that? So more so than the opponent of whether it was going to be Iowa State or Illinois, I think a lot of it has to do with, um, you know, can we handle a close game? And I think that would be the one question mark right now because they've dominated everybody for the last 2 years in this tournament.
Well, when you have dominated everyone like that and you haven't had to play that close game, how do you recommend kind of keeping a team in check there, sir? If you do get in that situation, it's not like, oh, they're rattled, wheels are falling off type situation.
Well, I do think it helps that they're playing basically, obviously, in Boston, and
Yeah.
they're going to have a favorable crowd, so that's going to help. But look, you practice time and score situations all throughout the year that happen organically within practice. There's nothing like it in the preparation of actually doing it during a course of a game. But look, UConn's good enough, they're talented enough, and as each game gets closer, so you're in the Elite Eight you get that to the semifinals, the championship, that closer to realizing the goal of repeating as
Mhm.
champions, which to win a national championship is rarefied air. To win back to back is, I don't know what words can describe that. So I guarantee you the guys are feeling it. Coach Hurley knows it, the players know it. So that's where it becomes, if it's a close game, can they just stay who they are? But it's much easier if you just keep winning like they're winning by 20 plus. You know what I mean? It's just much
Exactly.
easier for everybody.
Yeah, and from a fan standpoint, we could just kick our feet back up on the couch and really enjoy and soak these games, and I think we'd settle for that too. You've been, following this UConn team in the college basketball landscape in general throughout this whole year in your role. What's impressed you the most about this UConn team as you've gotten to take a look at them?
Yeah, I would tell you that there's a few things when you're thinking about them. I mean, look, they're extremely talented, very well coached. They remind me similar to like Iowa State and University of Houston that they don't win. It's not a 50-50 loose balls. It's 100-0. They win all loose balls. I mean, they're very similar to Houston and Iowa State on that. I would tell you though, They're extremely talented, as I mentioned. I love Tristan Newton. I'm
Yeah.
a big fan. And yes, his ability to score and assist and all those type of things, but he's such a great guard rebounder.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes UConn so good, is that kind of sets the tone with the way he sticks his nose in there and just rebounds the ball defensively, and he's the toughness. And then you start the break. There's no exchange of the outlet. And so UConn also is, I thought Arizona was the other team that has the capability of doing this, the
Mhm.
explosiveness on their runs. Like the game could be whatever, 15-13 or 27-23 or 30, 28, and all of a sudden 3 minutes, not 2.5 minutes later, they're on a 16-0 run or a 11-1 run or a 13-2 run, and all of a sudden the game's over.
Yep.
I thought UConn and Arizona were the two best at having this year, where I've seen where that were so explosive and so quickly the game can change on the literally on a snap of a finger because of the explosiveness of the runs. Obviously, that didn't help with Arizona the other day, but now Arizona, I would say, they got down a lot by Clemson, and they all of a sudden came right back, but they could never get over the hump. Where
Yeah.
UConn, obviously, they haven't encountered that. So, but the explosiveness of UConn being able to do that makes them just, you could, again, it could be all of a sudden it's close and then boom, and the game's over within a minute or two because of the explosiveness of the run, because of the talent. But I think a lot of that starts with Tristan Newton.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point what you bring up about Tristan. I'm curious if you're game planning for this UConn team, how are you trying to slow them down, given not only just Tristan Newton, but the amount of weapons they have offensively and the number of different ways in which they could beat you from that standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you're going to, look, we can go through the whole roster of their guys. They got a lot of good players. So I'll speak more generally
Yeah.
if I was coaching against them, because you know the biggest thing is I think it's critical to beat UConn. You can't have live ball turnovers. That's number one, because that number one, that gives them a chance to get out on a fast break and get their momentum energy going, and especially in the crowd that they're going to have
Yeah.
behind them, that's going to get them juice. So no live ball turnovers. Secondly, you've got to be great on the glass. You've got to find a way to control the glass, and you've got to find a way to score in the paint against them. Now, I don't think, sorry, that's my son in the background, so you hear some noise back there. But I don't think you can control, you're going to just stop UConn. You're going to have to beat UConn. And yes, you're going to have to make some threes and all that, Jared, but in the end, you've got to have no live ball turnovers. You've got to control the glass, and you've got to score points in the paint. I think without those areas, it's kind of an old school way of trying to beat, sort of like in a football analogy, you need to kind of beat them on the run, beat them at the line of scrimmage to have a chance against them. If you're going to try to play fancy against them and just talent, it's not going to work. So you've got to beat them old school way, is don't turn it over, especially live balls. Got to win points in the paint, and you got to win the glass.
The best time of the year, and no, I'm not just talking about March Madness. It's Easter kielbasa season over at Martin Rosel's Meats in New Britain. Martin Rosel's is making their famous Easter kielbasa recipe now until March 31st. You can find your favorite Rosel products in your local Connecticut grocery store or at their retail store in New Britain. And if you do head to the retail store, check out pickuprosels.com to place your order ahead of time to skip the Easter week lines. Out of state, the Rosel family can ship their products to you at martinrosel.com. Use code Jared now through March 31st for 10% off the subtotal on either of those two sites. Now go support a UConn fan-owned business. In terms of this matchup against Illinois looked like one of the more impressive teams in this tournament. What are your thoughts on the Illini in the matchup they'll pose for this UConn team?
I've seen the Illini a lot because I work, obviously I've done a lot of TV stuff this year, and I work with NBC Sports Peacock with big basketball. So I've seen them a lot. I really like the Fighting Illini. A couple things with them. Number one, Terrence Shannon Jr. is playing as well as maybe the best player in the country right now since the Big Ten tournament through the NC2A tournament. I don't know if there's a guy playing as well as he is in the total country. I love Hawkins. They're starting 5-man, because he's a hard matchup, because he's really a perimeter. He's really a stretch 5 or a stretch 4, but he's playing the 5. And he can shoot it, and you can play through him. He can pass. He's a high-level guy. The Mask, the transfer from Southern Illinois, got really good when Terrence Shannon Jr. had been out due to his suspension. It gave him a lot of time to play and get and really get better. And then you look at Dane Danger, who comes off, and if they want to play more smash mouth power ball inside, they can move Hawkins out and move Dane Danger in and kind of that more bruiser inside. So they've got a lot of weapons, obviously. And there's two things about it. Three things. Number one, they're not a big team. When I say a big team, like 7 feet, 7'1", 7'2", but they're tall and long across the board, like forwards and wings. They've got great length and size in the forwards wing too. They are one of the best rebounding teams in all of college basketball. They are the best rebounding team in the Big Ten, and they can flat out score the ball. And thirdly, they are an excellent offensive rebounding team, and they are so good at offensive rebounding. And sometimes the best chance and the best opportunity to shoot three-point attempts off the offensive rebounding, Illinois does that as good as anybody in the country.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to lead into some interesting matchups between UConn and Illinois there. I think one guy you mentioned there, and it's the guy that immediately kind of popped into my head, is Coleman Hawkins and how UConn matches up with him. If you're, in Dan Hurley's shoes and you're trying to try to slow him down a little bit, who are you maybe putting on him defensively, and what do you try to do to slow him down a bit?
Well, I mean, look, I think if I was Coach Hurley, on the matchup, if I'm viewing Coleman Hawkins, you've got to view him as even though he can go in the post and do some different things, the reality is he's a stretch five, he's a perimeter player. So you can switch do different things and switch. So if I'm, Coach Hurley, it's maybe not as much as a matchup. It's more about, okay, when he sets a ball screen, what are we doing?
Okay.
Because are we switching? Are we, again, depending on whatever his philosophy is, because he more than him rolling to the rim like on pick and rolls, he likes to pick and pop and then play through there. If you watch him in trail post in transition, Coleman Hawkins loves to fly down and be the trail post and play through him. They play through him. So you've got to look at him as really a perimeter player, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas Dane Danger is a traditional five, if you get what I'm saying on that. He's more by the basket. So those type of things is how you got to look at it. And that's what the difference is when those two guys are playing and they're in and out on that.
I know when you just look at things from an analytics standpoint, looking at the Ken Pop numbers, Illinois does look vulnerable defensively. Is that something you've seen as well?
Absolutely. They have vulnerabilities defensively. There's no doubt about it. Now, but they can flat out rebound. They do have vulnerabilities defensively. I've always said that with them watching this year. And even Brad Underwood has gotten on his team about that defensively. You just cannot be able to outscore everybody in the NCAA tournament. But they do have a guy in Terrence Shannon Jr. who can put you on their back and win you a game by himself, in a sense. Can go get you a bucket when you're struggling to score. So that's the one thing they do have. But they have shown tendencies in the past where they've struggled defensively.
Yeah, you've seen, and given what you've seen around like the Big Ten, and I'm not saying that Terrence Shannon is the same, or Boo Booey's at the same level as Terrence Shannon, but do you see a similar type game plan where you put like Castle on him?
Yes, but Terrence Shannon Jr. right now is the best player, individual talent playing in these last 3 weeks in college basketball.
Yeah. No, fair point there. As you look towards this matchup, I know you said earlier you'd lean towards having Iowa State upset UConn. How are you feeling about this matchup here in terms of who's pulling out the win here?
I think UConn's going to win the game. I think Illinois will give them will give them a little bit of a run, but in the end, UConn's going to win the game. With Iowa State gone, UConn's winning this game.
Not to look too far ahead, but while I've got you on the podcast, if you're looking at other teams in this tournament that are left, who else do you think is kind of the biggest contender there outside of maybe UConn?
I think University of Houston's winning the national championship. I actually think they're going to win it all. I've said that from the beginning, so I don't see it to be. I think in the end, Houston's going to win it. I think UConn's going to be there now that Iowa State's out. But I love the Cougars to win the national championship this year.
All right. We'll see what happens here. I've got to ask you, just because it's become a fun storyline of this UConn team in this tournament run, is Dan Hurley and his superstitions from a coaching perspective. When you were a head coach, did you have any fun superstitions there?
You know what? I mean, I used to have little superstitious things here and there, but in the end, I over time I recognized. Now, I recognize it's the guys making the shots, but I will say this: in the end, there were some times when we win a game, and I had my undershirt. I would wear the same undershirt the next day. So sometimes you'd be thinking like that, you know.
All right. I see it. I see. It's a coaching way of life. It's
Yeah.
the undergarments that
There you go.
always at
There you
stake.
go.
Coach, I really appreciate you taking some time coming back on the podcast. It's fun having you back on, and to keep winning, we'll have you on again next year.
Well, if they keep winning, we'll talk again next season.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jared. Thank you.